Hey guys, it's Sadiq Pantua, and today I'd like to explore the topic of do animators and artists have to become influencers or social media moguls? I guess one of the reasons why I want to explore the subject matter is because, the state of the industry is not looking so good right now, so people have been looking at alternatives to carry out their passions. And a good group of that number turned to independent projects or independent animation or independent ventures, and now they're trying to build up their online presence. Whether it's constantly posting, talking about stuff, so that they can gain more followers, more supporters for their ventures. Now, I personally don't see myself as an influencer, but me using social media has given me some great opportunities outside of work. And I'm pretty sure that if I were to say, I'm going to start making independent projects and I need supporters, I need some crowdfunding, I'm pretty sure I have more access to that than artists who have little to no following. So in order to see alternate venues besides trying to find a job in a studio, should you go down that social media influencer route? So I'm only going to talk about my perspective of the animation community. And being someone who has worked in the industry, who has worked in studios, I can safely say that the internet and social media only represent a small fraction of what the animation community is. Many people in animation do have social media, but most don't use it to an extent of artists you see on Instagram, on Twitter, and on other platforms who are pretty popular, who are doing really well, who have formed a social media presence. So first thing I want to get across is an artist that's an influencer and an artist that works in the industry are very separate things. You don't need to be an influencer to find work in the industry. And there are influencers that just can't work in the industry. There are some animators who work in the industry that are somewhat influencers, but that only represents a small percentage within the animation community. I want to make it clear that I'm not giving advice here, I'm only opening a discussion as well as sharing my thoughts and opinions and how I would go about these things. Second is we kind of have to talk about what makes an influencer, what makes a regular social media account user, or what just makes a regular artist that uses social media as a means to just post their work online. So when I mention of social media users or influencers, it could mean totally different things to what you're imagining. I want to break it down in a small tier list, and it's usually based on an artist's relationship with social media. I'm actually not going to talk about the skills of an artist. While I do believe that artists have a high following because of their skills, and they produce solid, engaging work, there's so many cases where there's people who are highly skilled but have very little following. So I don't think it's a very dependent factor. Okay, so the first one I want to talk about is that this is an artist that doesn't really participate in any online matters. They got work from their connections or have been around for a while. At best, they have a place where they can upload and share their work, whether it's a portfolio website, a blog, or they use their social media account very sparingly just to upload work. Access to their resume and contact. So if they're putting their stuff online or if they're participating online, it's strictly business. Second tier are artists that are actively posting their work online. They use a platform to update the world on what they're up to, or use social media platform as a casual portfolio. And maybe they do some small socializing or engage with the community online. Most people in our animation industry are like this, by the way. Now let's talk about the third tier. I feel like this would be close to a second tier, but they're more active on voicing their opinions or being involved with that online community socially or actively starting discussions. A lot of these guys will use social media as an online business venture. So commissions, Patreon, collaborations, contests. The overall third tier is they're pretty active on the social media and online community. Now, the fourth tier, I would say this is pretty much influencer territory. And how would I define that? My idea of the influencer is, of course, someone whose actions, work, or words influence a overall generation. In most cases, they have a pretty significant following. They have some sense of character or some brand. Part of that can go beyond the art that they do. So if you're a YouTuber that shows your face could be a brand to your overall business. But look, I need to get back on topic of if animators and artists like us need to be influencers. The advantage of being an influencer and someone that has a big following or big clout is that there's a higher chance of people willing to support my cause, whatever that is, over people who don't have any or little following. So let's say if I wanted to kickstart a personal project or if I needed funding, there's more awareness for that. You could get sponsorship offers and deals. And besides YouTube revenue, that's how a lot of YouTubers make money. I don't know how you guys feel about recognition, but if you're craving recognition, then you're probably gonna get recognized easily through being an influencer. So what about the disadvantages of being an influencer? I feel like influencers will face a lot of judgment, whether it's an audience giving critique and feedback, or if it's just them being spiteful. It's one of those things that you're gonna have to know how to handle. I'm not very vocal about my opinions as much anymore just because people have misheard me, misunderstood me, misinterpreted me. So even if you feel that your mindset and your thoughts come from the right place, there's a lot of people that are gonna take that the wrong way. If you're also handling trying to keep up this influencer or social media business, chances are you're gonna spend a lot of time doing that over your creative work. Whether it's making YouTube videos or constantly posting just for the sake of posting, that's still a lot of time and energy. I've seen YouTubers and some art YouTubers become self-centered, so the things they value like popularity or clout or social media count or being rich, it's not something that a lot of people can relate to. And if you see this influencer work as this full-time gig that's 24/7, then I can see how that mindset can happen. If you're an influencer that can be recognized by a lot of people in your niche community, then you're gonna wanna think about your privacy. So I personally don't think being an influencer is for everyone. It's not for me, that's for sure. I don't think it should be a priority for a younger and newer artist to be getting as much likes and followers as soon as possible. Personally, I've always been at the camp of making your work speak louder than you as an individual. Look, I can safely say that a majority of artists going into their field want to make engaging work, not to be some talking head. It's not a jab against those people. I'm just saying that most creative folk just want to make stuff. So the way I like to think about it is treating your work as if they're the influencer. So with art and creative work, it's about using your skills and medium to say whatever you want, whether it's a story, a lesson, a message, a piece of advice, or a joke. It's a medium that allows for expression. Again, I'm not really talking about skill, I'm talking about being honest with your work. The more your work feels honest to you, the more it feels uniquely to you. And more people are going to recognize your work, because the themes you explore for your work is going to reflect who you are as an individual. And there's going to be people who are going to connect with that. But let's say you decide you want to go down the influence route, hypothetically, but you still want to stay in the creative side. And another thing that I would point out about influencers is that they tend to start discussions within the community. You could start with talking about your personal experiences with your work and as an artist, and maybe beyond that. You could also talk about projects that you're working on, discussing solutions to creative problems that you're facing, having opinions about your given interest, whether it's about the industry, your own work, the craft, etc. You could also share tips and advice on things that have helped you personally with your work and see if it could be helpful to other people. One advice I'd give, and this is not just for people who just want to be influencers, but I think for people in general, is I would suggest practicing journaling to strengthen the muscle of putting whatever thoughts into writing and making it coherent. Last but not least, be as authentic as you can. I'm pretty sure many people will share a lot of sentiments in relations to whatever you have to share. So yeah, those are just my thoughts on the matter. Okay, bye. Interested in learning hand-drawn animation or learning how to finish an animated shot from beginning to end? Have a look at the store where you'll find the complete Introduction to 2D Animation video course, tutorials, and other resources. Learn classical animation approaches, drawing, lectures, techniques, and other process videos. Visit the store through the link in the description below.